Get your skates sharpened and your gear washed. Today, we're taking a look at Blades of Steel for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Developed by Konami and released in 1988, it was a port of an arcade game released in 1987. It was one of the few ice hockey video games available at the time, or ever for that matter. Often compared to the similar game NES Ice Hockey that was released a year later, it consistently comes out on top thanks to some key differences despite their major similarities. The title screen quickly establishes itself and allows you to simply select a one-player or two-player game. You're then taken to a simple but well-designed set of menus that have you choosing either an exhibition or tournament mode of play. Exhibition is just one game, while the tournament pits all 8 available teams in a playoff bracket. Any team can be controlled by a human player or a CPU. You then choose the difficulty level and aptitude of the game's AI between junior, college, and pro. This category is nicely reskinned to hide the difficulty levels as a hockey league. Once that's done, you can select one of the 8 teams for you and your opponent to play as. The teams represent some of hockey's biggest cities at the time, but since it was not an NHL licensed game, they couldn't use the team names or jersey color schemes. So basically, you're just playing as the city. There were 4 American teams of New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and the state of Minnesota. Meanwhile, the available Canadian teams were Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Edmonton. All 8 teams played exactly the same, so it was just a city or color preference selection. Once that's all squared away, the game begins with a display of the players skating onto the ice, but then goes right into the face-off, where you mash the B button to gain control of the puck, and also pass it to one of your other forwards if you wish. During normal play, if you control the puck, you can use B to pass and A to shoot. When you're near the opponent's net, there's an arrow that moves up and down on its own in front of the net, which indicates where you'll shoot when you tap the button. It's nice to see where the shot's going to go, but because you have no control over shot placement, you're most often shooting it into the goalie's crest or getting knocked off the puck waiting for the arrow to find open net. And why they need to make huge windups before shooting is beyond me. Sometimes a quick and simple wrist shot would have sufficed, but the players trying to do huge slap shots, it basically adds an extra second for the goalie to get into the path of the puck. It's utterly frustrating when you have a player with the puck right in front of a yawning cage, but they're aiming right at the goalie. Are you allergic to scoring, dude? This arrow mechanic also makes one-timers basically useless, because once the puck is off your first player's stick, the shooting arrow resets, so it's a crapshoot if the receiving player is even aiming correctly. The problems with the one-timer also depends on if the passing actually works for that matter. Passing the puck felt like a 50-50 chance if you'll even pass to the player you're intending to. So often I would pass to the player north on the ice, so of course I'm holding up on the D-pad, only to see the pass head south, and so often right onto the tape of the opposing player too. It just makes you want to forget the entire concept of a team game and solo drive the net every time. Meanwhile, on defense, A doesn't do anything, while B will let you swap control to your closest player to the puck. When you're close enough to your own net too, the D-pad controls not only your defender, but your goalie too. I've said it before, and it applies here too. Manually controlling the goalie is the worst mechanic choice. You either have to pick between focusing on your defender or your goalie, because either way, one of the players are going to be out of position. At least 40% of the goals scored against me were from behind the blue line too, because the screen did not show the goalie net, so by the time I find out where the opponent's shooting arrow is, it's too late. While skating on defense, if you want to get some body checks in, all you have to do is bump into the puck carrier. Sometimes it'll result in the puck carrier getting knocked off the puck, but most times it's just a bump off. Even then, it'll mess with their momentum, and if you manage to bump the same player 3 times in a row, it will initiate the first phase of a fight, where you need to mash the B button to throw punches. If one player manages to outmash the other, the loser immediately drops to the ice and gives up control of the puck to the winner. If both are successful in mashing, then Phase 2 fighting begins. The screen swaps to a close-up of the 2 combatants as they fling off their gloves and start throwing punches using the B button, and A to block punches. Both have variations that cover the head while holding up and the stomach while holding down on the D-pad. Now, you know this is arcade rules because the loser of Phase 2 gets dragged to the penalty box by the referee, while the winner immediately gets control of the puck and play continues. It probably was conceived as a silly gimmick mechanic, but it turned out to be one of the more funny aspects of the game, especially in an era where fighting in a hockey video game was almost non-existent. There's also a rare shootout mode too. It's extremely rare to see during a regular game, but if there's a tie after the 3 regular periods, a 5-round shootout occurs where the angle of the camera changes. You see the goalie net at the top of the screen, and the skater at the bottom. The skater doesn't even move, rather, they just shoot the puck at one of 8 positions on the net. The goalie needs to make a bit of a guess to be able to block the shot by choosing the same shot location. So, while we're playing a team game here, you need to have some trust in your teammates, but this game definitely ain't it. It may be your job to guide the goalie to block the shot, but they just can't seem to hold on to the puck at all. Even slow shots will bounce off your goalie, and often right to the stick of the opposing player. And while that alone is frustrating, all your other teammates are cherry-picking up the ice and not helping to gain control of the puck at all. Hell, the opponent would just be sitting right there in front of the net taking pot shots at the goalie with no fear of getting hit. As far as control responsiveness and layout goes, it was pretty good and mostly intuitive, aside from the manual goalie control. Keeping the checking to a bump of the puck handler kept things simple. And sure, seeing where the puck would be shot to the net was an okay idea in theory. A lot of the surrounding mechanics felt ill-executed. My god, the passing especially. But, as odd as this sounds, I did still have some degree of fun playing this game. What you have to remember is that this is a port of an arcade game. The presentation was done so well to make it seem like a more precise game, but in the end, it's actually a much more loose ice hockey game with arcade mechanics. I don't know if that's a good excuse for base mechanics not working properly, but it's possible to have fun with this game if you approach it properly. The gameplay gets a 6 out of 10. In an era where NES title screens were just blank canvases with a title on top, Blades of Steel's title screen is laid out in a way that fills the whole screen, making use of all the pixel real estate. The game menus are simple but designed in an appealing way. The empty crowd stands in the background and the open ice are a nice pre-game feel, along with the Zamboni machine just carrying on with his business. The main gameplay area is the same for every game, plus it's a simple ice surface. The score isn't displayed in the background, and you only ever see it after you score, but that's not a problem really. The crowd details are simple but plentiful. The arena really does feel quite full. The players are all the same model, so they just need a color change and they're magically a new team. All the team's color schemes are well and unique from each other, not only in main color, but even the type of secondary color choices make them all feel further unique. When you get into the fighting close-ups, the player and the background details are all amped up in details, and the crowd animations are really getting into the excitement of the fight. Despite not being an officially licensed NHL game, the visuals and details all make it feel like an exciting game in the big leagues. The graphics of Blades of Steel gets a 10 out of 10. There's not a lot of long-lasting music in this game, not even the title screen has one, but the menu gets probably the longest song in the game, and honestly sounds like it could have been used on the title screen as well. When the players skate out at the beginning of the period, a charming tune plays to hype up the ensuing face-off. End-of-period animations and the end-of-game tunes also add well to the moments. When you score a goal, there's 3 varieties of goal tunes that play, while the scoring team's players huddle up for a celebration. All the songs sounded very hockey in nature, but what really stood out to me was how all the tunes sounded very Konami. I was having flashbacks of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and 3 with the use of the thick drum beats and iconic guitar. There doesn't seem to be much sound effects in this game, but what you'll hear a lot of is the sound of the players skidding across the ice. Rather than play a tune over the action, or keeping it mostly silent, Konami opted to split the difference and fill any silence with quick skating stride sound effects. Lumped into the action, of course, are passing, shooting, and physical hit sounds, along with a little bounce effect when the goalie stops the puck. And of course, there's the crowd. They'll get quiet during the more boring segments of play, but will roar on just about every shot or big hit. And of course, goals too. And here's an impressive detail for a 1988 NES game. So the arcade version had many audible one-liners to simulate a TV commentator, but those arcade boards had way more RAM to hold the extra data. However, the NES version was able to hold at least a few of these lines, granted quite garbled and compressed. The title screen verbally will call out the name Blades of Steel once the words slide in, and the announcer would also call out Face Off and Fight preceding both events, as well as the line Get the Pass every time a pass connects. You'll be hearing that one a lot. The players also had a grunt whenever they get knocked down, whether it be from a check or getting rocked in a fight. It was simultaneously overdramatic but subtle too, mainly due to the compression really. It was goofy, but fun. The music and sound gets a 9 out of 10. More Cousins video game hijinks, and yet another game we all crowded around. The memory of playing the game definitely was better playing with a second player, so that you're both left out to dry with the manual goalie controls. But thanks to the focus on more arcade-style gameplay, it made for a funner time. With the period timer counting down super fast, you could get through a game in under 20 minutes. Perfect for all the spectators to get their turns, while the actual players got a full experience. Something about the sound effects and music really tingles my nostalgia too, but having replayed it on a digital and crisper medium, it's familiar but still off. Someday, I would want to fire up an old CRT TV and pipe the audio through the primitive speakers, just to get that 100% old school sound. The nostalgia hit gets an 8 out of 10. Even though Nintendo's flagship console had inferior technology compared to its arcade older brother, the port of Blades of Steel managed to carry over all the fun of the original in gameplay, sound, and visuals. While it had little competition at the time of release, Konami didn't get lazy with its production value. One thing's for sure though, you have to go into this game knowing its arcade roots and not expect a super tactical styled hockey game. There's some utterly frustrating control choices and janky execution. Yet, despite this, the game is fun, looks great, sounds great, and all in all, makes you feel like you're in the stands.